Hello, my name is Rocco Strangio, and I'm the host of the Law, AI, and Money podcast. I bring on attorneys, engineers, and entrepreneurs to unravel the world of AI and to discuss how it'll affect the legal profession. Today, I'm joined by Larry Taylor, a partner at the Cochran Firm. Larry oversees the mass torts, criminal employment, and civil rights practice areas at the Cochran Firm. He's been a civil rights activist. Larry's also very involved in the community. As somebody who needed legal representation against a large corporation, Larry understands and appreciates the need for adequate legal representation. In our conversation, Larry and I discussed the legacy of the Cochran Firm, how Larry is carrying that legacy forward today in mass torts, and the fight for the little guy, why everybody should be entitled to equal representation. We hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey Larry, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Rocco. And yourself?
I'm doing well, Larry. Thank you first and foremost for making time to come on. For those of you that don't know, Larry is a leader in mass torts, and he's a leader for aspiring attorneys around the country. So, Larry, thank you for making time to be on today.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
yeah. So, since I started this podcast, it's kind of become a habit for me to ask attorneys that come on why they got involved in the field of law. And everybody's got their own story. For me, I had a background in accounting. That's where I got my undergrad degree in, and I wanted to be a tax attorney. And it didn't really pan out that way. I went on a different path, and you might have a purpose that made you go to law school that was a little less dry than wanting to be a tax attorney. And so I wanted to ask you, why did you get involved with law? What made you go to law school? Why did you want to be an attorney?
All right. So actually it's a two-part question, Rocco. A two-part answer, should I say.
Yeah.
So the more jovial part of it is my wife was an attorney 10 years before I even thought about going to law school. And so we were driving back from Florida and we're kind of competitive. And so the kids are in the back seat, we're going back and forth, and I just blurt out, I could be a better lawyer than you can. And so she gets silent. She drives, she pulls up at Barnes and Noble, she gets out, doesn't say a word. She comes back and just throws this bag at me. And I open it up and it says LSAT. I'm like, what is this? She says, you have 4 months to prepare to take that test. Put your
Oh.
money where your mouth is. And so literally she filled out my application, all the paperwork she did. She was like, all you got to do is show up to take the exam. So I showed up, take the exam. She submitted my scores to the schools,
Yeah.
and I was an investment banker. And dude, I just had like a monster month, right? Like a great six-figure month. And
Wow.
so she calls me and she says, hey, come to the office. And I said, okay. So she's a partner at this law firm. And I go into her office and she lays out these envelopes on her desk. And she says, which law school do you want to go to? And I'm like, law school? I just made a ton of money. I'm with the
You're
I'm with the
chilling.
stock, yeah, I'm with the stock boys. You know what I'm saying? The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm
The
not gonna go to
Patagonias.
yeah, I'm not gonna go to law school. And and but the second part of that is we had a situation in which we needed a lawyer, and I watched my lawyer crumble in court. So it was a civil case. Home builder built our home without permits, but we got hit with an arbitration clause.
Mhm.
And I mean, my lawyer sucked. And between the two of those, I was like, look, first of all, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to advocate the out of the hell of the case for my client, right? Not going to cower down. And
Mhm.
two, I think I won the bet because about 7 years after I graduated from law school, my wife ended up working for me. But now she's a judge, so
Yeah. Oh, okay. So she's doing pretty good. She's doing well
y-
for herself.
she's doing well. She's doing well.
I funny enough, I've always found liken to eventually becoming a judge. That's something that I've always aspired to be, and I think that would be my dream in life. But
Move to Texas, and I'll make that happen for you.
I appreciate that, and I believe you. um, so that's amazing, Larry, and you kind of pointed to something. You said that there was sort of a civil issue, and you felt like you weren't being represented in that second instance, the second example you gave for wanting to be an attorney. For those of you that don't know, Larry is an attorney at the Cochran Firm, which is one of the most reputable firms in America when it comes to civil rights and representing the little guy. Obviously, founded by Johnny Cochran. Um, can you give a little bit of background on your firm and what it means for America and representing the underrepresented?
Oh man, that is a near and dear to my heart. Our founder Johnny Cochran was a starch advocate. He started off in LA in the DA's office and eventually worked his way to becoming opening up his own firm and always representing the little guy and the guy who had the world against him, right? But he was in the right. And so he is most famous for representing O.J. Simpson in the O.J. trial, being the lead attorney on that. But what a lot of people don't know is he represented farmers and, um, you know, like you said, the little guy and people who had been mistreated by the police. And so, in law enforcement, and regardless of color, Mr. Cochran was always there. And so he kind of reminded me of a Dr. King in a sense that, if you were a poor white farmer in the middle of Alabama and some big corporation was poisoning your land, he was there. If you were Latino or Arabic and your store or your family was being harassed and something was trying to be taken, he was there. And so that's why I really love being part of this Cochran family. It's because you have that history and that sense of pride when you go in and you represent the little guy.
Of course, and I think the Cochran Firm now, obviously, it's still working on cases like that, but in your practice, what you specialize in, mass torts, can you explain how that's continuing that same fight for the little guy?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. So, uh, I have a huge campaign with representing people of color in different situations, and all people, but
Hmm.
especially dealing with pharmaceutical and bad drugs or environmental situations. Because a lot of times, these big corporations, those small communities don't really have a voice. And so it gives me an opportunity to represent them and be their voice. For example, in hair relaxer, I filed the third uh, lawsuit in the hair relaxer litigation, which is a litigation against beauty companies for hair relaxing or perm products that caused cancer to the female reproductive system. So, in general, and so that means a lot because you're talking about my grandmother, you're talking about my mother, you're talking about my wife, you're talking about my daughter, you're talking about my sister, and so you're talking about my cousins, you're talking about all these people who are directly connected to me that have been affected by these corporations. And so cases like that mean so much to me and being able to be a voice. And it's tiring because
Yeah.
they're not called big corporations for no reason. And so, but the thing that keeps me going is I had a client, one of my hair relaxer clients called me yesterday and wishing me a happy birthday and a happy new year. And I was like, we're not related. She said, yes, we are, at least until the end of this case. And so, so, you know, having those relationships, man, and
That's awesome.
giving these women a sense of voice and basically revitalizing them and taking that victim off of them and turning them into a victor and getting them to be courageous is so important to me.
Totally, totally. And for that litigation alone, the amount of people that's affected over the course of history is like unfathomable. And when you take into account all the different mass torts that are ongoing, whether it's related to residents of wildfires that were started from you know an electric company, or farmers who were affected by paraquat and other pesticides, it's just like so all encompassing that almost feel like mass torts is the best representation of what Johnny Cochran stood for and what firms like the Cochran Firm stand for. Um, can you explain, what other litigations your firm might be working on? So if people want to get involved, if there's something that may have affected them, um, they're aware of it, because as I just mentioned, there's just so many of them um, ongoing.
And and I'll tell you this: we're involved in GLP-1. We're oxbutyl, uh, uh, oxbrita. I'm sorry, oxbrita.
Yep.
The sickle cell drug that they basically rushed to market without doing the necessary, what I feel the necessary testing, and how it affected especially people of color, because people of color are the ones who typically get sickle cell. Um, and then one of the ones that is near and dear to me as well is sexual assault. Um, that has affected my life both personally, um, and it's always been so close in a sense to people that I love. Something like that has happened to, and so being able to be out there for these children and these young men and women's lives, to be able to once again be their voice. I mean, when we get offline, I'll tell you a funny story about a case that, well, no, I won't tell. I'll tell you right now. I had a woman who she was a victim of sexual assault, and it was a bad story, and she was shell shocked to the point where she would not leave out the house unless I literally came with my
Wow.
staff and picked her up. And so we picked her up and brought her to a deposition, and she was so shell shocked. And so I said, "Watch this, right?" And so I'll tell you off air what I actually did.
Yeah.
But I made the defendant so nervous. His attorney was flaring and you can't do that, you can't say that, you can't do this, and all this, all this. And so they went into their room. I took my client in her room. This was before she had to speak, and she just laughed her head off. And she said, "You know what? I saw in his eyes what he must have saw in my eyes." And she was just like, no matter what happens, she said that was worth it. And she said, "I'm ready to go in now." And so, man, being there for these people, because our job, a lot of people think about it and say, you mass tort attorneys, you attorneys, you just want the money. You know what?
Right.
I can't tell you how much I made off of any particular case, but I can tell you exactly a story like that and the relationships that I have with my client. I mean, I can't, and it's just, I mean, I could tell you that. I
That's
could tell
awesome.
you, I could tell you about a civil rights case in which we lost my first, like, I don't really lose, but I lost the case. And and I was sitting there with my head down, and my client, he put his arms around me. He said, "Dude, what's wrong?" I said, "Dude, I lost this case for you." He said, "No, you didn't." He said, "You won the case. The jury took it from us. But you made that officer feel like he made me feel." He said he was in tears on that stand. And he said, "You know what? No amount of money that you could have won for me would have given me the same gratitude as you giving him just what he gave me." And so it's stories like that, man, that I can come back and tell you time and time again. I can't tell you how much money I made. And so for people who say that we do it for the money, I say you haven't done what we do.
Wow, those are the coolest stories, and it just goes to show you how underrepresented these people were in the past. Like people scared to leave the house, feeling so like powerless that just having somebody there for them means all the world of a difference. That is so cool, and that's something I feel like Johnny would do. The first story, doing whatever you can to be an advocate, because other people are not, they don't play by the rules. Sometimes you have to go above and beyond to make the fight even. You know what I mean?
And,
But
and, and, and you're right about that, man. And I tell people all the time, every lawyer is not the same, right?
yeah,
Some people who get drafted in the NBA become Hall of Famers. Some people become all-stars, and some people never get off the bench, but everybody got drafted. And so it's just you need to find out what kind of attorney you want. Do you want an all-star Hall of Fame, or are you cool with just an attorney who rides the bench? And so
right.
we're not. I consider myself potentially on the verge of being an all-star. I'm not a Hall of Famer, but if I get in the game, whether I'm the sixth man or a starter, I'm gonna give you everything I got.
I love that. Um, So we've talked about the Cochran Firm and how it's continuing the fight, but you're also involved in a few organizations, Shades of Mass and AAJ. And I just wanted to ask you, how are those organizations also? What are they doing to continue the fight for the little guy?
Man, I'm gonna throw one more out there. I am on the ladder to be the president of public justice. So right
Oh yeah,
now,
public justice is a big one too.
yeah, I'm the secretary. And so all of these organizations that you talked about are moving the ball forward uh, as far as what this country is actually designed to do, right? Shades of Mass, I have the opportunity to educate young lawyers and even some senior or seasoned lawyers in the area of mass tort. How do you practice the right way? You do the right things because we don't need the defendants uh, getting the upper hand, and we don't need the defendants saying that we do sloppy work. And so, Shades of Mass is an organization that was formed and created. I'm one of the founders to help educate young lawyers and other lawyers about mass torts and class action litigation. Public justice, I mean, to me, I tell people all the time, they are the Batmans of the legal community. Like you don't know about them really, but they operate behind the scenes in every major litigation that you can think of. Public justice is right there, being a brain trust. And doing a lot of the writing and appellate work and going before the Supreme Court and going before the appellate courts to make those arguments to make this country what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to take care of everyone, right? There should not be a small town in Mississippi that children are getting cancer because some company is dumping chemicals in a field because they don't care, right? And so public justice is there for that. Food deserts. Uh, you know what? Prison reform, jail
Mhm.
reform, bail reform. Public justice is there for that, and then you have AAJ, which is the big voice in the room, advocating to ensure that people like myself have the tools necessary in order to represent others. Because you look at what just took place this last legislative session, they basically ripped out medical malpractice out of Georgia and have really done a work in what they call uh, uh, a tort reform in order to prevent everyday citizens from being able to have a voice and to seek justice. And so AAJ stands up for that. So that's the American Association for Justice. So they're out there fighting for justice. And so I've been at some point. golly, I've been on the executive committee and leadership in all of them, and all of them have done a great job, and I've enjoyed my time there.
Yeah. Yeah, I commend what those organizations are doing for everything that you mentioned, and they truly are such backbones of the fight, doing everything behind the scenes that people might not, you know, explicitly see, but it's definitely happening. Um, well, Larry, I cannot thank you enough. You're an inspiration to me and probably so many others, and um, just having you on to share your knowledge and experiences is just great. Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to say before we close out?
Hey, man, I want to say thank you for doing this. You know, you don't have to do this, and you're not doing it for the accolades and the fame. You're doing this to make sure that these stories and our voices are heard throughout the country and within the community. And so that is so important, right? Because you're handsome enough, you could easily be doing movies and be the next Ben Affleck, right? But you're here doing the work to ensure that I'm able to continue to practice and represent my clients. So thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, you got it, Larry, and thank you for coming on, and I hope you enjoy your holidays.
All right. Hey, one last thing. If
Yeah,
people who want to follow me, they can follow me on TikTok and on Instagram under the Real Life Lawyer, and it's LYFE. You know why? Because it's not about I, it's about you. And so life is spelled with a Y. And then they can also catch me on my podcast, Tailor Made Conversations, on YouTube.
perfect. Everybody, go check that out, and Larry, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Law AI Money Podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation, be sure to like and subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. Thank you.